Hey everyone, since recording this episode, we talked about the Second Shift Brewing fundraiser that has closed since the time of our recording. We were all able to raise $16,668 for the Kreider family over at Second Shift Brewing, and that's awesome. So they're not taking any more donations, but just wanted to put that out there and enjoy the show. Today's episode is sponsored by the American Homebrewers Association. Become a part of the U.S.'s largest community of homebrewers for just $48 a year by going to unitedwedrink.com/AHA. What exactly do you get with your AHA membership? How about a year-long subscription to Zymergy Magazine, the world's longest-running homebrew magazine? Exclusive deals and discounts at over 2,000 breweries, bars, and bottle shops across America. Discounts on Brewers publication books and merchandise. Access to a huge library of previous HomebrewCon seminars and talks. And early access to purchasing tickets to each year's Great American Beer Festival and Savor. Sign up now by going to unitedwedrink.com/AHA and get a year's membership for just $48. And if you sign up now, you'll get a free gift. What's that gift? I'm not saying. You need to go see for yourself. It's pretty great. Support United We Drink, support homebrewing, and support the American Homebrewers Association at unitedwedrink.com/AHA. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that's willing to admit that they're winging it. Welcome to United We Drink, right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and I'm guessing that the winner of the Euro 2020 will be a European team that's very good at soccer. And with me, as usual, is the hand grenade to many horseshoes, is Joel Codner.
I don't get that reference at all.
Horseshoes and hand grenade. Just go with it. You're a hand grenade. And joining us is our brand new co-host, a man of not very many social media accounts, Kevin Abbott.
A privilege and an honor, gentlemen. A privilege and an honor to be here with you.
So those are the kindest words that anyone has ever said about the show. So I think we can end it there.
It's all downhill from here. All downhill from here.
Some of you may recall Kevin from being on it was like the 1-year anniversary show of us restarting the show. It was also my bachelor party weekend. I don't remember what happened during that show. I'm not going to go back and listen to it. So let's pretend that didn't happen. And we're going to learn about Kevin a bit today. Because maybe we talked about it. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we complained about Malort. Maybe some people said that they liked Malort. But Kevin, why don't you let the people who are unfamiliar with you know a little bit about you and your history in brewing? Because you have probably the longest experience out of the three of us in this industry.
Well, guys, you are in luck because if there's one thing I like to do is talk about myself. So you guys just relax. I got this the rest of the way. I am one of the partners and director of operations for Barrel of Monks Brewing in Boca Raton, Florida. Some of you may know my head brewer. That is not my head brewer. That is someone completely different. Love the dog. So yes, we've been at Barrel of Monks Brewing for almost 7 years now. Before that, I worked at a brewery that we all used to work at together. many, many moons ago. I got my start as the head brewer at Funky Buddha Brewing. That must have been back in 2008-ish, something of that nature, when Funky Buddha was just a little startup brew pub, and kind of went up through the ranks and did the brewing thing. I spent a long time as a brewer in general, and then moved into more of an administration side, and now I go over all the marketing, sales, pretty much every aspect of the brewery is what I oversee now at Barrel of Monks.
You oversee Joel.
I oversee Joel, yes.
And you kind of got your start, doing so. Joel and I had mentioned this on the last episode, which did you listen to?
I did not.
Oh, good job on keeping up with the source material.
I'm just coming in fresh, man. I'm coming in fresh with new ideas, new vibe. I don't want to be, I don't want to be tainted by what's happened before.
Oh, it's a good thing you don't listen to some of the Phil episodes, because you'd be very tainted. You'd say a lot, and you'd want to talk about seltzer all day.
And also throwing barrels at Mario.
By the way, what are you drinking, Kevin?
I am drinking. I don't know if you've heard of this. This brand is called La Croix. It is the key lime naturally essenced La Croix. I am not drinking a beer right now because my wife and I are taking a month off before my upcoming birthday. So we're about 2 weeks into that. So we decided to take a month off drinking. So that's really exciting.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I like the key lime one of that. I feel like it reminds me of Skittles.
It does have a bit of a Skittles feel to it. I do agree with you on that.
Yeah. Joel, are you partaking this evening, or did you already knock your one out for the day?
I did, but I'm having another one because I'm just, going through stuff. Fuck it. Having an endless enigma from a little brewery called Barrel of Monks Brewing. I don't know if we mentioned that on this episode before.
Are they now a sponsor of the show, like MeUndies and Barrel of Monks?
I mean, technically, Barrel of Monks outnumbers you.
Yes.
Joel,
at this point.
Joel, do not tell him our plan to slowly take over this podcast, install Ralph, our assistant brewer and head cellarman, into this position where Mike is, and then take over the world. Whatever you do,
inevitable.
don't tell Mike about that.
Hopefully Ralph knows how to edit a podcast, and also knows my Libsyn login.
I'm sure he doesn't, but he does know a lot about hops. Will that help in any way, shape, or form?
Probably not.
Okay. How's the Endless Enigma
taste?
How's the Endless Enigma taste in Joel?
Wonderful. My supposed one a day that I'm supposed to have, I actually had at the brewery on draft, Endless Enigma, and both are fantastic. I'm very impressed how the aroma is really holding up. I mean, it's a nice just burst of tropical goodness, and as always, I've got a
Polar
can of regular non-alcoholic seltzer, flaccid seltzer, not hard. Ruby Red Grapefruit Polar from their fucking like summer beach pack I found at Costco, which is really just their normal pack with mandarin orange.
Because Ruby Red's a normal flavor, isn't it?
I thought it was just grapefruit. This one says Ruby Red Grapefruit. I don't ever recall seeing the words Ruby Red, and the can is pink, so obviously I'm annoyed with that. But
the other move we're doing is when we take over this podcast, it will become a seltzer podcast.
But non-alcoholic seltzer? I can get down with the non-alcoholic seltzer talk.
Yeah. We call it NA Seltz. It's going to be a new thing that's going to be coming out pretty hot.
I'm very happy that my Publix has now been stocking all 3 varieties of Topo Chico, regular lime and grapefruit. So
I don't understand this complaint you always have about, because I see you talking about it on Twitter, and mine has it all the time. I think you should just drive all the way down to Boca Raton every time you need to go to Publix and get it here.
every single time.
Yes, take Tri-Rail and come up here or down here.
Take Tri-Rail to the Boca station and then walk west a while, and then I'll get some Topo Chico hopefully before they close, and then walk back and hopefully get back to Tri-Rail before they close. And that's a good plan. It's a good plan. Now, my local Publix did not carry it for many, many months, and now they finally have started carrying it again. One of the other Publixes nearby has had it pretty regularly, but fuck it. No one wants to hear about this shit.
Are you going to Clematis or Belvedere?
Belvedere. I go to Southern sometimes. I don't go to the city place.
So just to be clear, is this the portion of the podcast where we talk about Mike's shopping habits?
Yeah.
Is this a normal, like, a segment?
This is when people start hitting the little, like, 15-second advance. 15-second advance. When are they talking about beer again?
I cannot imagine a single human being not wanting to hear about you trying to find Topo Chico at your local Publix. I feel that there's tons of seltz enthusiasts
it's my
crossover with our
podcast that I do. It's
the seltz.
Mike's search for Topo.
Yeah. And there's a Venn diagram. Those two things cross over for the three of us, and we're already on the podcast, so it's going to be hard to get extra listeners.
There should be a Twitter account strictly dedicated to whether or not Topo Chico is in stock at Mike's Publix, just like they had the one that was like, our Publix chicken tender subs on sale this week.
I will.
And as an aside, Bubbly is buy one get one free this week, but I'm not buying that shit because they went to the 8-packs and they've drastically reduced the flavors. There's like 3 or 4 flavors when there used to be 12 to 14.
I know that I've complained about the 8-packs before, but I'm also one who buys the 4-packs of fucking Topo Chico, so I probably should stop complaining about the 8-packs.
And it's glass, and you're increasing your, what is it, climate footprint?
My footprint?
Carbon footprint?
Cool.
I don't know.
You started with something, Mike. At some point,
I did, and I don't remember what it was.
What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking Guinness Nitro Cold Brew. It's fucking fantastic. It's like a coffee chocolate milkshake in a can. I love it. I also have some whiskey too for when this is done.
Irish?
No, bourbon. I actually don't have any Irish whiskey right now. Normally I have some.
I think that Nitro Cold Brew can with shot of Jameson and a scoop of coffee ice cream would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like a float.
No doubt.
I still have 3 from my pre-heart attack 4-pack that I bought. So I need to find some sort of sugar-free ice cream that's going to be really boring but satisfying.
If that's not a
make
future can release name for you guys, pre-heart attack 4-pack, then I don't know what could be. And
get on it, Joel.
It'll be your next IPA. And then you have post-heart attack 4-pack.
It's a whole series.
It's a 1-pack, really.
I do now remember what I wanted to talk about because Joel and I mentioned this briefly on the last episode, and that is the fact that you are probably directly or indirectly responsible for pastry stouts.
Ralph has told me that multiple times, and yes, it's an interesting role to be in, especially since I don't tend to drink a lot of those in my own personal life at this point. But yeah, I mean the original beers from Funky Buddha were about as pastry, candy, everything as you possibly can imagine. And I think when we were first trying to put those beers together, our entire thought was we had gone and had so many Dogfish Head beers that said that they had 47 ingredients in them, and we said, well, we really can't taste any of these. So if we're going to say we put an ingredient in a beer, well, by God, you're going to taste that frickin' ingredient in a beer. And that's kind of where Funky Buddha, planted their flag at the very beginning. So, and I think a lot of things have grown out from there. Not that those kind of beers weren't already being made commercially, but I do think that Funky was one of the early ones that was just going to go over the top and slam people over the head with the flavors that they said were in the beer.
I know that like extreme beer, if you will, was around prior to that, but I remember going to the Extreme Beer Fest where you guys the first time you ever went there, and like the thought of extreme beer at that time was kind of like, hey, we barrel aged beer, we put chocolate in it, we put coconut in it, here's a wild ale with a bunch of fruit, and I think that some people, if you say that that's extreme, would think that, oh, no, that's very pedestrian nowadays, where you guys were doing these, like the maple bacon coffee porter, and you were making Rice Krispie treats and all these other things that just were not...
Sweet potato casserole.
Yeah.
Which was your idea, by the way. So you're to blame for that. Mike was the one. I remember sitting in a bar many, many moons ago, probably Coffee District, which is one of our local haunts. That was one of the early craft beer adopters down in our neck of the woods. And Mike was had such a hard on for, you got to do a sweet potato beer. You got to do a sweet potato beer. And it was something that we had talked about. And eventually we got the right ingredients together that we thought we could make a good one of. So that was you.
Yeah. Because I just thought that, even at that time, pumpkin is way overdone. Know what else is also fall? Sweet potatoes. And
well, I think it's funny that you mentioned the Extreme Beer Fest, because yes, we poured at our first Extreme Beer Fest, and there was Shorts was there, and they had Soft Parade, and they had a peanut butter beer that they blended into their peanut butter and jelly beer. And I remember drinking that, and they were when I first tried that, I was blown away. I was like, this is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But compared to what we did at Funky with no crust, it was completely different, right?
Yeah.
And they had a s'mores beer. They had some of those key lime pie, but I always remember those being subtle flavors, not really over the top ones. And that was our whole goal was, you're going to put X amount of pounds, 2 pounds of that ingredient. We'll just do 4. And I think it's the same way that hops are now being done in double and triple IPAs, where you're going like 7 pounds per barrel, which is just the most asinine thing you can imagine. It's just double it, triple it, just do it to an extreme till it gets to the point where you can't even taste it. It's the Gillette razor situation. Fuck it, 12 blades, right? Just throw in an extra blade. It's not going to do anything, but you'll see the extra blades and someone will buy it.
And you mentioned something about the overuse of hops, and this is something that Joel and I are really looking forward to having you on the show about, is like you don't utilize personal social media in any way. You really don't follow hypey, trendy stuff in the industry. So when a topic like that will come up, I really love the idea of getting a truly off-the-cuff reaction from you, because you may not know what we're talking about. And you will certainly have an opinion on that, and you'll create your opinion very quickly and very well thought out, something that I can't do off the cuff like that. But this is something I'm looking forward to, is just blowing your mind with bullshit that happens in this industry.
I love the fact that you just pitched my lack of knowledge as a strength. I will take that any day of the week.
Well, it's like I told Mike on the last episode. I said, I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic, because I told him, I'll be talking to you about something, whatever it is, and marshmallow beers, or, shitting on something, or just, I feel like I'll have a conversation with you and feel like I'm on the right side of the argument, and not that we're even disagreeing, but just feeling like I'm correct in some way, or on the right side of this particular debate or discussion, and somehow you, with your rationality and logic, which was great when you were training me, but now if we're having like a discussion, I'm like, I'll feel like I'm right, but he still finds a way to kind of make me feel like a piece of shit.
Well, I'm glad that you understand my intention of how I want to speak to people. I'm very much on a pedestal. I like to talk down to humans, and you're no different, Joel. So another thing that I'm glad that you guys are looking forward to is being condescended to.
Was that a short joke veiled in something else there?
It was now.
So yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be our way of now being like married men in our late 30s, early 40s. Finally, like, this is taking place of sitting at a bar and bullshitting to one another. Now we're recording it via Skype and all of that. Joel, Phil sent us a bunch of news today and yesterday and all over the week. Was there anything in there that you felt was...
I'm sorry, just to cut in. I thought we agreed never to say his name again, because I'm a very jealous person, and I don't want to be reminded that a person who is like twice my size, I have to fill those shoes.
Okay,
he's two of me. So
William,
Phil Parmigiano.
Was there anything in that news dump that he sent over that jumped out at you that we should talk about?
I mean, the way you phrase that, should we talk about it? I mean, it's funny. We used to have a legit news segment where we would tackle the ongoing, happenings in the industry, and we've really gotten away from that. And I'm okay.
Will curated that.
Yeah. And not to dismiss any of his efforts or assistance with the podcast, but I just kind of don't give a shit what's going on. Like, I don't care. There's too many breweries. There's too much beer. I don't care about your press release, about your collaboration. I don't care that you finally, put a seltzer out after, 9,000 other breweries did. And I just...
Oh, that actually reminds me of something that he sent over, that Sweetwater is collaborating with now, like, the weed side of, like, their new parent company. Is it a collaboration if you're the same company?
I think it can be. I mean, if you're operating in different
sectors,
departments, yeah. I think you could call it a collaboration.
You often have different people in, different. The companies often have different people, the heads of them, that are collaborating together with different expertise. So I think that works.
Right, and I don't think. Look, is it a collaboration? Well, you have to take this into account. Do the people from the weed side of the company and the people of the beer side of the company get together and kneel in front of the brew house with a bro like handshake and post that photo on Instagram? I believe that's what makes an official collaboration.
It does, and they also got to call each other homies.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Because
it's not a collaboration if it's not with the homies.
Yes, and
I thought it. Go ahead, Mike.
And if there's no picture, it didn't happen.
I thought if you just ordered lunch, it was a collaboration. That's what I thought. Isn't that what collaborations are all about? You just order lunch and kind of hang out
and drink beers. Yeah.
Yeah. Collaboration.
Look on your phone a bit while while the actual people making the beer slave away.
So that's the news.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he sent us. I don't recall what the topic of the news was in relation to Brewdog. It was a bit more positive than the other news item they had this week, which was they had some sort of contest where you win what they claim to be a solid gold can of beer.
I guess it
or
was
just a
hidden
beer
inside
can.
of like a 12-pack.
Right. And as it turned out, it was a gold-plated brass can.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw the Onion headline today, mocking the suspension of one of the U.S. Running athletes. I'm going to totally butcher this, but basically one of our athletes was suspended and not going to the Olympics because she tested positive for marijuana. Oh my God. And the Onion headline was like, dreams dashed over some trivial bullshit is much more indicative of America than winning the actual gold medal. And that's kind of how I feel about the Brewdog gold can. Like that seems more indicative of their entire motif of everything they do than, whatever positive news they may have out.
Yeah, I mean, that following their whole toxic work environment, a business, something built on working in fear, was one of the big claims from a group of former and current employees there. But yeah, then
Is that not good?
It
Is that not? Oh, I need to change some things. Joel, we'll talk on Tuesday.
Stop trying to scare Ralph. He's very easily frightened.
I often come to work in a Jason Voorhees mask. That's not good either? Fear, scaring. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
They can't all be
you got
gems.
PPE.
But yeah, I guess they announced that they're building a brewery in Atlanta or some shit like that.
Whoop-de-fucking-do. You and every trust fund, baby.
Listen, if there's one thing we need more in this world, is more breweries. So bring them on.
Always could use another one to kick around. I envisioned this episode talking more about Kevin, but I guess like that didn't really pan out the way that I thought it.
Best laid plans.
It was the end of a really fucking trying week for me at work. So we're recording this on a Friday, which I don't think we've ever recorded this show on a Friday. We did a live stream on a Friday before, but this is new territory to just be like, get off work, have dinner, and record. But, Joel, like, how are you doing? Like, I know we talked a little bit about this last week with your health. I saw a nice big pile of shit with Jeff Goldblum in it on your Twitter account not too long ago. So makes me want to just ask, how are you doing, my friend? Anything that you can put out there to make you feel a little bit better and talk about things?
Oh, no, you should know by now there's nothing that's ever going to make me feel better. No, like a friend of mine asked me earlier this evening how I was doing, and I said, physically okay. I'm taking my meds. I'm eating very clean. I'm down 10 pounds for the month. That's all good. I've had caffeine a couple of times, which I'm not supposed to have, but I mean, it's nowhere near the levels I used to have. So, I think that'll be okay. Mentally, I'm kind of a bag of shit, to be honest. Like, I'm just not, I have weird ups and downs. I have good days and I have bad days. I think that's the main kind of issue I'm dealing with. It's just taking everything in and dealing with everything as it comes. And, I'll be in Chicago next week for my sister's memorial service, which, it's been like 5 weeks now, and I don't know if I'm not over it. I don't know if I'm numb to it or if it's just been enough time where it's not on my mind constantly. But I don't know how I'll be when I'm up there. It'll definitely be emotional. I mean, so much of my family has never met my wife or kids. And I'm sure that will help them a little bit, like, not to say, you lose one and gain another or anything like that, but I think it'll make certain people feel better to kind of know that their family has grown and meet, the kids and my wife and all that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it. I've just got my ups and downs, and it's really weird, and I don't know how to describe it.
Well, like it seemed like you're looking forward to that a bit, despite for reasons that are less than great. And I mean, yeah, maybe something good can come out of that, and I'm hopeful that, if anything, like you said, some people in your family get to see positives in meeting your wife and your kids for the first time.
Yeah, and I like the idea of, like, getting to show the kids where I'm from and know that they have more family outside of, what they know, from everyone here. And
oh yeah, because this is their first time going there, right?
Yeah, they've only been on a plane once, and that was 2 years ago, when we went to North Carolina for a week. Other than that, they really haven't gotten outside of the state. The most, the furthest we usually go is Orlando. So, we're going to try to do some fun stuff for them to, not make it such a grief-heavy couple of days. But, it should be all right. Like I said, I don't really know how I'm going to feel once I get there. I was honestly pretty emotional last time I went. It had nothing to do with any of these types of circumstances, but I got to go to my hometown for the first time in a long time and not... I don't know, like, there were just some people there who made me feel welcome. I got to go to some breweries and finally meet some of the people that I only knew online, and really changed the way... I had such a weird... I don't even know how to describe what the word is, but I had such a kind of troubled view of where I came from because I was taken from there, and then I kind of go back on my own and get to meet all these people and go to all these places and do all these things that weren't a part of my original past there, and kind of changed the whole way I viewed the place and my relationship with it, and it was on a much more positive note. So we're going to go do the whole family thing and hopefully, leave on a fucking better note than when we arrive, I guess.
Yeah, and
it is how Joel is doing, like a new segment from United We Drink.
And now this week on How's Joel Doing?
United We Drink, 50% seltzer, 25% where is Mike shopping currently, 25% how is Joel doing. Right? That's the breakdown?
That's pretty much, yeah.
Sounds like a shirt.
It only took me 30 minutes to figure this out, guys. Okay, I'm in.
I hope that it's a good trip. You're doing that next weekend, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we've, I think, kind of stumbled ourselves through this first episode with Kevin. I promise we'll be a little more formatted for the next episode, and I think we have some guests that we have had planned to be on the show for a little while that we really got to nail down some dates on, and that will keep us from probably just bullshitting and blabbering and me going and trying to, not as much as Will, the Parmesan guy.
Thank you.
But I think with that said, we could probably head into last calls. I don't remember if Kevin did a last call on the last episode. Like I said, not going back and listening to that.
Now, hang on. I did suggest a new segment earlier.
Oh,
if you
shit.
wanted.
That's right. Fuck. My bad.
And that could fill out a little bit of time.
Yeah. So, Joel, go ahead and you take the reins on this. Cut me off.
All right. So I had suggested to the guys, what if we told some horror stories of the industry? Not necessarily to keep things on any sort of negative note or, make it all sound like doom and gloom and everything, but we've been doing this what feels like a long time, and there are so many stories we tell each other when we're in person and we're sitting around having drinks, and I thought they would be kind of fun fodder for the listeners. And we have worked in so many aspects of this industry, from bartending to cellaring to brewing, and these Mike and Kevin have done operations and management. So, there's been a lot that has happened, especially in this absolute clown show, fucking Florida. So, I just thought it would be fun if we told some, every week or every other week, we just, tell you guys, hey, here's something wacky that happened, or some absolute, shit show we remember or something like that. Just to kind of, shed some light on some of the sillier, fun, or crazy aspects of the industry. I don't know if you want me to go first or.
I feel like it was your idea. Why don't you jump in there? Show us how it's done, Joel.
So, the one I initially thought of it had to do with a former assistant of mine when I was at the brew pub. And I thought of this because I guess they're getting out of the industry and made it, they went on social media and said they were going to start blasting people in the industry when they clearly kind of flunked out of it. And one of my more memorable, memories of this person was, so when we're harvesting yeast, we've had a beer that fermented out, and now we have taken the temperature down on it, and the yeast has flocked out down to the bottom of the fermenter. And we want to take back that yeast and reuse it at a later point. There's something called blowing the plug. And what that is when you've got trub and sediment and all these things that kind of settle out of the bottom of the fermenter throughout fermentation and cold crashing, you want to kind of clear that shit out before you harvest your good yeast. And this person had worked with me at a previous brewery and knew the procedure and wanted to, I guess, skip it altogether anyway. And so what he was trying to do was harvest yeast with the plugs. So at the bottom of your conical fermenter, you've got a little pipe heading to your absolute out valve, and this could be packed with very dry Play-Doh like sediment. And you would take the pressure up on your tank and kind of blow this stuff out into a bucket or onto your floor or however your brewery is set up. You just blow this shit out and down the drain, and then you connect to your sanitized keg or brink or whatever you're using, whatever vessel, to recapture the yeast. But he wanted to take the shortcut and just hook immediately up to the brink and harvest this yeast, and you've got all this shit packed in the pipe. And it wasn't working out for him very well because he's going from 1.5 inch pipe to, maybe a 3/8 inner diameter fucking piece of tubing that is not allowing anything to get through it because it's so thick and dry at this point. So, he ignored procedure, which he knew was supposed to be blowing the plug and then harvesting your yeast. So what does he do? He disconnects the fitting that he already had sanitized to harvest the yeast and starts just absolutely raping the pipe on the bottom of the fermenter with toothpicks, like bamboo skewers, which I'm certain were not sanitized. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing right now? Oh, well, it's clogged and nothing's coming through. Yeah, because you didn't blow the fucking plug. I actually saw this with another cellarman at all three of ours previous brewery. That was a beer that someone had the bright idea to quote unquote dry hop with cocoa nibs, but with no bag. There was no mesh bag. They just threw all the fucking cocoa nibs or cacao into the fermenter, which all settled to the bottom. And now he is also raping the absolute out with a spear from a corny keg. So the lesson here, folks, is blow your goddamn plug.
And try not to rape your absolute out.
Yeah.
Ask first. I was going to talk about that person, but decided no. I changed my mind before we went on air of not talking about that. I believe the number one story that I always like to tell of like scary moments or just terrible moments in my career is how I was almost killed by an air compressor at our previous brewery. But I think I told that story on the safety episode back then, so I'm not going to rehash on that. But what I would like to talk about is from my previous job type before getting into this brewing industry is IT stuff, because it seems like some people in the brewing industry aren't very smart when it comes to fucking computers. And we had one guy at a previous brewery who had a laptop that was a company laptop that he fucked up so badly. There were so many viruses on that thing. I spent one whole day cleaning it up because like he couldn't do anything on it anymore. He was just like, hey, it's just not working. And Joel does a better impersonation of him than me, which also is not a good impersonation, but it's the thing.
I honestly
don't
remember who exactly this was.
Oh, yeah, you do. He's the consultant. But
Christ.
There was also another point where our other people at this brewery took that same laptop years later and started researching how to open their own brewery on it, and were searching for like used brewing equipment, used kitchen equipment. And it's like, does no one know how to use fucking incognito tabs? Because they fucking don't. And Joel's the one who found all this and was like showing me. He's like, look at this that they were looking at. Look at this that they were looking at. Also, our boss tried to put stuff on our computers so that they could monitor it. And the first day that was on there, I noticed it and was able to uninstall it. So it wasn't very good that I was able to do that. But it just shows like some people don't really take their computer security or just like anything seriously when they're on company time on computers and all of that. So if you think you're doing something shady on company computers and company time, do it on your fucking phone, because you got fucking internet on that. Fucking morons.
Take that. So I guess it's my turn. So I will talk about brewing, and more specifically, the fact that I didn't know what I was doing when I started brewing. And I'm not talking about as a home brewer, because I certainly didn't know that. But as I started, when I was producing commercial batches that were being sold, bought, and well received by very, very many people, but still had no idea what I was doing. I did not go through brewing school. I was primarily taught by a home brewer how to brew extract or partial mash batches. And my first commercial batch of beer was the first batch of beer that we sold at Funky Buddha. So we were learning as we went. From the very beginning, there was no expertise in the room. It was basically 3 home brewers standing around a kettle going, it seems like the right thing to do. So to do a little callback to the start of the episode, mention the sweet potato casserole beer, right? Mention Mike wanted to do a sweet potato casserole beer, mentioning it, saying it would be a great idea. Pitch the idea to the powers that be at Funky Buddha. Yeah, let's do it. We come up with a recipe that we think is going to work really, really well. And we decide that we're going to brew this beer. And we're going to brew it with sweet potatoes. And a lot of sweet potatoes. And because we have no experience and we basically have no idea what we're doing, we decide to put sweet potatoes in the mash, put sweet potatoes in the kettle, put sweet potatoes in the fermenter. We want to put sweet potatoes everywhere. Now, me looking back on this goes, well, why'd you do it in the mash? All that flavor is going to be boiled off, fermented off. It's all going to be gone. Of course it would be. But we didn't know any better. We heard about other people saying, we put it in the mash. We put it everywhere. Not knowing that was all bullshit, right? So here I come. I do my mash in with, I can't remember exactly how much. This was almost 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, maybe now. But cans and cans of mashed sweet potato go in the mash of this beer. And if you know anything about beta glucans and the gumminess that you're going to get out of a grain, normal grains of a big 10% beer, which are already going to be hard to lauter, hard to separate the liquid from the grain. And then you basically throw a bunch of potato glue in on top of that, which made it to a point where this was a stuck mash on an epic proportion. To the point where the liquid was trickling out. Imagine taking your faucet at home and putting it, just barely bump it up, just barely where it's on, and you just see that steady little stream, almost imperceivable, but there is water actually leaving the faucet. That was how much liquid was running out from the moment that I tried to start to lauter this beer. That's what happened. Now, because I am a glutton for punishment, and I didn't know what the hell to do with it, I just went with it. It took me like 5 to 6 hours of stirring it, mixing it. I had a small, and the original Funky Buddha was not a giant brewery. It was basically a homebrew system on steroids. It was a 55-gallon steel drum fashioned into a mash/lauter tun, and there was this little trickle coming out, and I took a little one of those like popcorn containers that you have at home when you want to like have the kids and have them eat popcorn like they're in the movie theater. One of those just sitting underneath the absolute out, what we called, of the lauter mash mixer lauter tun, and I would just take it. I'd have 2 of them. I'd fill one of them up. I'd put the other one underneath it. I'd pour the other thing into the kettle, and I did that for hours and hours and hours. And once again, no idea what to do with it. It was a normal brew day in a situation like that was probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 8 or 9 hours. I was there for almost 14 trying to get this done, and I still hadn't even put my sweet potatoes in the kettle, which I ended up doing that too. Now, we did that inside of some pantyhose or a hot mesh bag. I can't remember anymore, so that wasn't too big of a problem. But I remember distinctly tasting the wort as it came out and going, that doesn't taste anything like sweet potatoes. It tastes like anything. It tastes like regular mash. I've wasted hours of my life for absolutely no reason. So that was the first batch of the sweet potato casserole that ended up being a staple beer. I think a yearly beer for Funky. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but was a relatively popular one. So in an indirect way, Mike, that was your fault. So
You're welcome. I mean,
Screw you. But it was a real good lesson in learning. I learned very quickly there after that escapade about making sure that you can lauter a beer, and I learned a lot going through that. But that was a little bit of a shit show.
I assume no amount of rice holes would have probably helped that.
I was just going to ask.
Well, we weren't even using rice holes at that time. I probably didn't even know what a rice hole was. I knew what rice was, but I didn't know much about their holes at that particular moment in time. Yeah, I can't remember much. I can't remember much about the mash bill or whatever we had there, or what our grist to water ratio was. Those are probably foreign subjects to me at the time. But always a favorite of mine whenever I talk to someone, especially when they have like a pretty big homebrew setup. I love talking to them about that.
That's the first time I feel like I've ever heard that story. You may have told it like back then to be like, let me tell you about this fucking beer that I'm going to put in front of you. But
the amount of beers that we made early on at that brewery, which went on to be extremely successful, and I'm very proud of what I did there. I'm very proud of what they did, after I left, and I've been gone from there for a very long time. But the amount of beers that we made early on that were just undrinkable, I mean, just undrinkable crap. And the people who would suck it down and talk about how great it was. And I'm talking about the first 2, 3, 4 months. I'm not talking about I was there for 3.5 years. I'm not talking about later on when we actually learned what we were doing and got good at it and improved. But it was so interesting because it was the early days. There was there was Brewsies down here. That was it, right? There was Tequesta Brewing Company, but that was a little bit of a hike. There was no one brewing beer down here, so everything we did was the greatest thing in the world because it was home. It was beer. It was local beer, and people didn't know any better.
They still don't.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joel.
Some things never change.
Hashtag Trash Palette Mafia.
That was fun. Good job, Joel, on coming up with that. Should we make this a regular?
It was such hard work, me thinking about all the terrible things that go on in the beer industry.
I know you very rarely get negative about things like that. So I appreciate you going to a very dark place in your mind and putting your mental health at risk to create entertainment for this show.
I will now log off and meditate for 10 minutes.
You get your Calm app out. Not a sponsor of this show.
Who are our sponsors?
If you go to unitedwedrink.com/sponsor, you can see some of them, like the American Homebrewers Association and Wink Wine Delivery right to your house, and some other fun stuff. Go check it out.
And of course, this entire podcast is brought to you by Barrel Amongst Brewing. Sorry, Mike, I had to say that at least once.
All right, so I'll be expecting that check, or do you want to send via Venmo? We'll work that out after the show.
I'm actually surprised.
Should I hit Keith up for that?
I thought you were going to completely no-sell that. I thought you were just going to be, and moving on.
All right, so let's wrap things up here with some last calls. The point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to rant, rave, or just talk about whatever you want for that amount of time, unopposed, unobjected to, uninterrupted, most of the time uninterrupted. And I'll kick things off here. I just have a real quick little thank you that I want to send out. Today, when we're recording this, was the last day for one of my coworkers, Kevin Squires. He was a head brewer with us at Copper Point Brewing. He is going and moving back to his home state of New York. And the last year and a half that I've been working at Copper Point with Kevin, it has been a lot of fun. And I've learned a lot from him. He's a smart dude when it comes to the brewing industry. He's a fun guy. We had some really good times making beer, especially during the pandemic when we didn't even really know what the fuck was going on in those early days with are we going to stay employed? Are we going to get fired, furloughed, or whatnot? And we just kept on making beer and having a good time trying to do so. And we made some good beer and we had some good times. And I know that he listens to the show from time to time. But if you hear this, thank you for the time, Kevin. I had a blast, and safe travels, and hope to have a beer with you again sometime in the future. Let's go, Joel.
So anyone who listens to this and knows me well enough probably knows I'm a huge George Carlin fan. I loved the way he weaved language and words, and I often think about how he would view 2021 America and social media and a lot of the things that we see every day. And I don't... He really was a fighter for freedom of speech and the First Amendment, and that's clear in his case against the government with his 7 dirty words. And I don't like policing of language. I think, you should be able to say whatever you want, whatever consequences may come. No one has to agree with it. No one has to listen to it. No one has to repeat it or anything like that. But every now and then I do find things that just irk me a little bit. And one of those things is related to the beverage industry, and that is the term slake your thirst. I don't know where the fuck this came from. I hate the word slake. It sounds like snake. I haven't heard it in a very long time. I don't want my thirst slaked. You can call it quaffable, you can say it's quenched, but you can fuck off with slake. Don't say it. I don't like it. Get rid of it. You guys look totally perplexed. No one on the podcast can see it. I know we don't normally react to last calls. You look utterly fucking confused. I guess you haven't seen this and you're fortunate enough, but it's out there. You can look up slake in the dictionary, which I did before the podcast, and it basically means, quenching your thirst or something along those lines. But it's just, we could just get rid of that word. We don't need it.
Yeah, never heard of it. All right. Kevin, you have a last call?
I'm going to bring it home. Okay, so I just want to start off by saying fuck you to both you people. I've been friends with you guys for years. We worked together early on in our careers. Mike, I was the best man at your wedding. And just now I'm getting invited onto this podcast after years of doing it. So, I've been holding a grudge for a long, long time. I also want to say fuck Phil Palmisano. Just for the fun of it, even though he's not here anymore. But it was his absence that brought me on board. So, you've just been missing out, guys. Mike, we had another podcast together, but could I be on United We Drink? No. Even though I'm a beer industry professional and this, that, and the other. So I just want to basically say, screw you guys. This is my last podcast. I just wanted to come in for this. And really tell you off. Just really give you a piece of my mind and let you know what I really think about you guys. So our friendship is over. Joel, you're fired. And we're all just going to move on. No, I really... Mike, you look like you want to say something, even though this is supposed to be my time. But you know what? I'll let you go. Go.
No.
Okay. No, I really want to say you guys are awesome. I really was appreciative that you asked me to be on this. I enjoy sitting around talking with you guys about anything in the world. The most simple, minute minutia, talking with Joel about things like language and social media and things of that nature is always been really fun for me. And anytime we get a chance to talk about beer, talk about other stuff, I really, really appreciate it. So I'm happy to be here. Lend a little bit of expertise when I can, but mostly just to share some time with some good friends. So, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Do you have anything that you want to plug?
Barrel of Monks Brewing and Odd Breed Wild Ales. Those are the 2 breweries that I am a partner of. So, yeah, if you haven't before, if Joel hasn't convinced you already on this show to go and taste his delicious beers, I think people should give him a shot. And right now, that beer that he was drinking, that Endless Enigma, I'm pretty damn proud of it. I think that the guys, Joel, Ralph, Ben, all just knocked it out of the park, and the beer's getting better and better every time we do it. So I hope people give us a chance to try something from us that's not just a traditional Belgian. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Awesome. Joel?
Well, I guess I can skip the professional part of my plugs. Thank you, Kevin. I am Joel Brews on Twitter. Like I said on the last episode, my old Florida brewer is no longer mine and is totally up for grabs, so feel free to impersonate me and say all types of terrible things. I don't use egg symmetry on Instagram anymore, but if you like looking at neatly organized and symmetrical remainders of egg cartons, like Kevin looks so confused. I'll tell you about it after the show. That account is still up. I don't even remember the fucking password. Still Florida DUH Brewer on Instagram, though I don't use it too much lately. And yeah, come have some fucking awesome beer at Barrel of Monks.
You can follow me at Mike Loves Beer on both Instagram and Twitter. You can follow the show at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. You can go to our website, unitedwedrink.com, and you can also check out some of our sponsors there on the sponsors page. You can support the show financially by buying shirts, buttons, stickers, whatever from our web store, unitedwedrink.com/store. And if you want to tell a friend or family, whatever, to listen to the show, we're available on all of the major podcast apps, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, all of that, wherever fine podcasts are found. So you can subscribe to the show and listen to it on the device of your choice. We'll be back here in a couple weeks with a brand new episode. Maybe an interview. Who knows? Follow us on social media. We'll tell you what we're going to be doing on that episode. And stay up to date. Talk to us. We have nothing better to do with our lives. Don't talk to Kevin. He doesn't have social media.
Well, I would say if you want to follow me, show up at Barrel of Monks about 4:30 on a weekday and then trail my car as I go pick my child up from daycare. So that's an option if you guys are, game.
That is legit following and stalking. So you look at it whatever way you want to. But in the meantime, we'll see you then. Stay safe out there. Be good to one another. And cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.